Welcome to What the World Needs Now with hosts Tom Whisinnand and Josh Monroe.
In this episode, we talked to Melody Hawkins, an assistant principal from Knoxville, Tennessee, about how her passion for science led her to discover her calling in life.
Melody, thank you so much for being here with us tonight. For our listeners that don't have the privilege of knowing who you are, could you tell us a little bit about who are you, where are you from, and what's your role in education?
Thank y'all so much for inviting me here. This is really exciting. So my name is Melody Hawkins. I am an educator in Tennessee, and I am currently in an assistant principal role at a high school here in Knoxville, but I am a forever science teacher. I will always be a science teacher. I did that for 6 years at a middle school here in Knoxville. And I literally woke up one day and said, I want to be a teacher. So I kind of took a career pivot and left laboratory science, which is what my degree was in, and decided to pursue life as an educator. And I love it, and I'm never going back.
You've done some amazing things. We'll get into those in a little bit. But tell us about this life pivot that you did, because I think sometimes we get into a career and we kind of get like tunnel vision, and this is our life. And
Yeah.
I think it's amazing if you're not happy with what you're doing, or if you have a different vision for your life, go pursue it. What was the catalyst to get you to make that huge decision?
So I have been sharing this story as often as I can because I think it's really important. I've been sharing it more with my students, my students who are going into like post-secondary life, whatever that looks like for them, college or going straight to career. But I remember for as long as I can remember, I've always said that I wanted to be a doctor. I said that all while I was a kid in elementary school, and when I got into middle school and then into high school, I always said I wanted to be a doctor. So I did the doctor things. I watched all the doctor shows. I read the doctor news articles, and I hypothesized and postulated like I was going to be someone's physician one day, and I had all the answers for what might be wrong with the person. But I focused on that a lot. I was very serious about it. When I decided to go to college, it was no question. I knew I was studying science. There was no question about it. But my classes were really hard. It was really hard. Biochemistry and organic chemistry. I liked it, but it was really hard. And there were moments that I found myself asking, like, Melody, why did you say you wanted to do this again? You said you wanted to do this, but why? Where did this idea come from? And it was when I finally, when I graduated from my undergrad and I went to the AmeriCorps. I started working with the Red Cross in New Orleans, and my real pivot began then. I stopped focusing so much on what I wanted to do, and I started thinking more about who I wanted to be and the type of person that I wanted to show up as. And that was not an easy journey thinking through that. It kind of forced me to go back to some old ideologies and some old thoughts that I had to reckon with, and some things that I grew up thinking about myself that may not have been true. I had to kind of go back and think about, who am I at the core of me? It took a few years for me to go through that process. I got married, had kids, and then realized I want to be someone who is changing the world in every possible way that I can. And I want to be present for my kids, for my own little girls. I want to be present for my family, for my friends. I want to be present for my community. And in my mind, it made the most sense for me to be an educator because that's what I saw my mom do. I saw her be present for me, my sisters, for my dad, for her community of friends and family. And that's when I made that decision. It's when I started thinking about who I want to be, is when I realized that the educator life was for me.
That's an awesome way to go from one place to another, because I think that is more of what the world needs, is that we need to focus on who do we want to be on the inside. Like, yeah, I want to make millions of dollars, frankly, I want to play in the NBA, but who do I want to be as a person, and how do I want to better this world? If we could all ask that question every day when we wake up, man, we'd find our passions quick. And Tom, you talked about that guy with instead of being pushed, you're being pulled, right?
Yeah, Tony Robbins. And I think that is so true. And Melody, I have a story that's a little bit similar. I was going to be an occupational therapist, and I was accepted to a program. But at my core, I just wasn't. It wasn't who I was meant to be, and so I was pulled to this life and education. And it's just super refreshing to hear you say that that's who you were meant to be, and it clearly is. So
Thank you. Yeah, it was definitely it was a journey. It was also something I didn't share with a lot of people. Anyone I met knew that I wanted to be in science as a doctor, laboratory work, diagnostic medicine, but I didn't share a lot of my educator self with others. And that when I realized how much I held that so special to me, that's when I also realized how important it was and how much a part of my life I needed to make it.
Well, Melody, I think that shines in a lot of areas for you in education. You're the 2021 National University Teacher of the Year. You are a 40 under 40 award winner for Nashville. You're a district science teacher of the year. Like, the accolades go on and on. But I got to know, in your time in education, what's been the highlight for you?
Oh, goodness. I was thinking about this recently, and I don't even know. I have accomplished, and I say this with all the humility, I have accomplished some amazing things in my about almost 10 years in education. And I didn't walk into this field with the mindset of I'm going to be teacher of the year and I'm going to be 40 under 40. I wasn't thinking about any of that. I just wanted to touch kids' lives. I wanted to teach science. So when I go back to my moments that I'm most proud of, or that is like just those most endearing moments, it's the moments when I have been able to watch my students get it. They like, you can as a teacher, like you can see when the light bulb clicks on, you can see when they're like, oh, I get it now. Those are the moments that make this job so beautiful. The accolades are cool and they're fun, and it's great to be able to be recognized at this point, but there are so many great educators who have not been recognized on a grand scale, and I enjoy hearing about their moments of watching kids get it. And getting it can be in an academic perspective, or it could be in a social and emotional perspective as well. I think that realizing that we touch lives in so many different ways, like educators, we're with our students just as much, maybe sometimes more than some family members get to be around the students, and we're interacting with them on an academic level, but we're also helping to shape who they become in this world. And so watching them make those revelations about who they are, and watching them discover things about themselves, watching them realize, oh, I do like math, or wow, history is kind of exciting, or the connections. I was in a classroom just last week, and a student realized that something as simple as photosynthesis, that the products and the reactants are the reverse of each other between photosynthesis and cellular respiration. And to watch her eyes, she was like, wait, the same stuff that's in cellular respiration is the same stuff that's in photosynthesis. So that's what connects us to plants. And I was like, yes, like that's it. It really can be that simple and that cool. And watching her get excited because she got it, and she got it on her, she felt like she got it on her own. Those are the moments that I do this for. That's it.
Melody, that's absolutely inspirational. Talk to us a little bit about the time that you had kids really get it, and you used NASA to kind of be the impetus to cause all kinds of learning.
Yeah, those kids are now adults, and that's crazy to me. Oh my goodness. I said I wouldn't get emotional, but it might come out. Yeah, I might bring it out of me. Those kids are now 20, almost 21. They're in college. They're working for major corporations. They're out here doing the thing. And to think that it all can kind of be traced back to a moment where someone came to me from our community who was very, very important, a very important part of our school. And he was always looking for opportunities to help expose our students to real world application of what they were learning. And at the time, I think I was a second year teacher. So I was like wide-eyed and just ready for whatever, right? I was happy I made it through year one. So I was excited about life. So he came to me and he said, "Hey, Melody, I've got this really cool opportunity for you and your students. And it involves you guys designing a science experiment, but it's very important that you are only facilitating. You can't like write the experiment for them. You can't go find something and have them say it's theirs, right? They have to really, it has to be really raw and like their idea. Totally student driven and student generated." So I thought it was a great idea. And I said, this is cool. So, what are all the specifics? Well, he told me that I would need to, kind of assemble my students, and they would need to pick something that would be very impactful in the science community. And they would need to write a science proposal for this project. And it would be judged by professionals that are connected to the Smithsonian Museum. It would be entered into the competition for a chance to go up to space and be tested by NASA scientists. And I'm listening to him say all these things. And I'm like, okay, we're going to do this. And I walked away, and then I was like, I don't know how we're going to do this, but we're going to do this. We're going to do this. We're going to do it. They were 8th grade students. And I know that I had them at a point where they were just now beginning to developmentally understand how they fit into the world. So they were making that shift from, I only care about me and the world revolves around me, to, oh, there's other people in the world and we have to care about them too. So my idea was, let me try to appeal to their sense of purpose in their community. How can we think of some impactful science that will heavily impact something that you all care about? So I just started throwing topics at them. These are all the things that are going on in the world right now. There's a water crisis. There's a pollution crisis in terms of the atmosphere. We always could talk about deforestation. Like, I was just throwing stuff. Come on, y'all. We got to think of something. And they came together and they became really passionate about the idea that there are there are places in the United States where there's not clean water, and they could not wrap their head around that. This is the US. This is like the best country in the world, right? Like, this is the 8th grade brain. How can we not have clean water in places? That doesn't make any sense. So that's how they went down the rabbit hole that led them to the idea that we need to investigate this more. What type of processes can help to purify water? What are some processes that might be used in a microgravity environment? And at that moment, while they're sitting in my classroom thinking about all these things, all of those labels that anyone had placed on them, the labels that are based on test scores, right? Or the labels that are based on socioeconomic status, the labels that are based on absenteeism and financial accounts, all those labels went away. Those things did not matter to them or me. It didn't matter to the person who brought us the idea. And it certainly didn't matter to the judges that chose their experiment as one of the winning projects. So it just blows my mind that my students were able to experience something that some people could only dream about. They were able to travel to Florida, to Cape Canaveral as 14-year-olds, and watch their experiment that they designed, that they handled and put together in this little tube, go into a space shuttle and get launched to the ISS, tested by scientists, sent back to Earth, and mailed back to our school.
No, it wasn't. It was sent back to your school too?
Yes, I still have the little tube.
That is so cool. That is so awesome.
Man, what a story that'll stay with them for their life, right?
Yeah.
And when you hear stories like that, it's hard not to get excited. Like, for us to not get excited and be like, yes, that's what it's all about. That's it. That is education.
Mm-hmm.
But Melody, I don't think that society is viewing it like that. But
No.
I also don't think that we're getting our stories like that out enough.
Mm-hmm.
in your opinion, what do you think is causing people to not view education as a career choice? Because I sit here and I hear that story and I'm pumped for tomorrow, right? Like I'm ready to get in the classroom. What am I going to do tomorrow to change lives?
Totally.
But it's not it's not happening in America right now.
So I'm actually that question, I could go in so many different directions. I'm going to just choose one, because I think that that is such a complex issue that we have, that there's definitely multiple reasons why others do not view education in the way the educators do. I think there is a part in there about what we think about ourselves. So I just want to kind of throw that out there. I believe that that we forget how powerful we are and how essential we are and how necessary it is that we continue to elevate this field that we found vital and we find vital. We have to kind of be those voices to elevate that. So there is a piece there for us. There is some work for us to do as educators. But then I also think it goes back to the experiences that we each have had as students in school. And I think about this a lot. I think about this. That's my motivator as an administrator. That's my motivator for how I interact with my students every day. I do believe that some of us have had those experiences that are negative, that have just really left a sore space in our minds and in our hearts about educators. If you have spent the majority of your time in a school or in a classroom where you felt like you weren't valued, you didn't feel seen, you didn't feel like you had a voice, you felt like the only thing that was cared about was what grade you made, but not who you were as a person, then you carry those experiences with you. And then we grow up and we become adults who are like, oh, well, that teacher doesn't really care about the kids. They just care about having summers off, which is actually not true. But all of those different things kind of still rest within that person because they may not have had a positive experience. I try to remember that when I'm working with my students. I never want them to ever feel like someone does not care about them. And I know that the teachers that I'm surrounded with on my team and in my school, they love our students so much. I know they do. I see it in their eyes and the way they walk through the hallways. I hear it in their voice with the way they interact with our students and the way they say their names. But I also want to make sure that there's never a space where our students are going where they don't feel loved, they don't feel seen, they don't feel heard, and they don't feel valued. That has to happen at every space where a student is interacting. Because if not, then our students grow up with a piece that's missing. Yeah. They've spent all this time in school and there's this hole because someone is not pouring into them constantly and consistently. It can't just be one teacher, one school year, and that's it. It has to happen multiple times throughout their experience. I do believe that that's a big part of the reason why some people may not view education in a positive way because they did not have, or educators in a positive way, because they did not have positive experiences. And we can't go back and change what experience they had, unfortunately. But what we can do as educators is lift our voices. And we have to let people know that, no, it's a great career choice. It's fast paced. There's something different every day. You're going to interact with multiple types of people with multiple age ranges. It's not just about the kids, but it's also about the adults in the building. It's about the families of the students. It's about our community. There's so many different stakeholders that are interacting with educators at any point of the day. It is absolutely a career that if you're wanting to be a part of an environment where you can have a little bit of control, but then also be free to branch out and try different things, then education is definitely that space. And we have to be the ones to show that and elevate that and raise our voices and show people that we are professionals. We study, we have to make sure all the time that we're using research-based practices. We're very intelligent. We have to be able to keep up with all the changes that are happening. Every single piece of our lives, politically, in the media, socially, it impacts education. So we have to be at the breast of everything at all times. But I do think that we're going to have to just continue to lift our voice and make sure that others know that.
Melody, I want to go off script a little bit. Here we are, a couple of white guys talking to you about education, but one of the platforms that you have is we need more African American educators in the workforce, and we do desperately. You said before, like, there's a piece of you that you don't see. There's a piece of you that's missing. And as a white male, I haven't experienced that. How can we get more African American males or teachers just in general?
Yeah, that question directly relates to the answer that I was just speaking on. Yeah, we have to make sure that our students of color are experiencing positive aspects of education while they're in school. I had mostly positive experiences as a kid. I remember a few places and spaces where I kind of was like, that seems a little uncomfortable for me. But I also have a mom who's an educator, and I know that she carefully crafted my experiences with adults in that way. And I was fortunate to have my mom right there in the same school system as me, and kind of behind the scenes plucking me around, making sure I had the experiences that she thought were was appropriate for me. But I have so many friends who did not have that experience. I turned out pretty well in life. I have friends that ended up on a different course, and there's no separation in who we were. We were both black girls. They were intelligent and are intelligent. I am intelligent. They helped me with my work. I helped them with theirs. We were very similar, but my mom was able to kind of craft my experience differently than what their family might have been able to do for them. And I can't help but wonder, why did my mom have to do that? She didn't have to do that. There could have been the same experience for me and my other peers that look like me. But I do believe that if we're not being intentional about pouring into our students of color and making sure that they see representations of themselves throughout their curriculum and their lesson, that the instruction is culturally responsive and culturally sensitive, that's important too, that there is some cultural humility, and that our teachers care enough about those terms to understand what they are. If we're not doing that, then our kids, our students of color, are going to run as far away from the classroom as possible. They're not going to want to come back to that. There's also a salary gap. We know that. And there's a wealth gap with students of color and in families of color. And if we want to attract more talented students of color, then we also have to think about the fact that education is not a career where you can make a great deal of money. And in a country where there's such a large wealth divide and such a large financial divide between Black people and white people, we have to also look at the social construct of what that has done and what that would continue to do if students are in educational careers that don't pay very much. So there's a lot of things there at the core of it. We have to make sure our students of color are having positive experiences in school. Have to. And it's not just for them. All of our kids benefit from having a person of color as a teacher in the classroom. It prepares them for a diverse world. They're not going to work in a company these days where they will be the only one of them. I might not be the only Black person, but a white person would not be the only white person either. We're going to be in diverse environments. That's how our world is. So we need to give our kids a snapshot of what that looks like at as many stages and spaces throughout their journey as possible.
I don't remember who put the tweet out, but it was something along the lines of, think about the first teacher that you had that was a person of color. Yeah. And I sat there and thought, and I think I got to college.
Yeah.
And that's a sad thing to reflect on. Because like you're saying, there's so many students that we have that then don't see themselves in these roles. and that makes it hard for us to move forward in those areas. Melody, I want to keep going down this path because I think it's important that these topics come to the limelight for people, especially with how America is right now. I feel like teachers get attacked for a lot of things. And I think that us sitting here, us three, probably have very similar views on these topics. But there are districts out there, there are states out there that if we talk about those things, you get reprimanded, you get fired. How do we fight those situations? Because I think for me, I would walk away, right? Like if my district said you can't do blank and it was true to my heart that that's what we should be doing, I'd say then this isn't for me. But that's me, and that's not every situation that every person's in. So how do we fight what's going on in America with the divide that we have?
I'm always thinking about that because this is a area that I'm very passionate about, but unfortunately I don't have all the answers. I can tell you that I've thought about the fact that I understand that it's really hard to change a system from the inside of that system. So this is where our teachers, we have to really rely on the relationships we build with the community. Our parents and other community leaders and advocates, they can really make a lot of momentum for us classroom teachers who, we might not have signed on to be the next protest leader, right? We really just want to teach science, and that's okay. Let the teachers focus on that. I would love to see our community leaders really step up and protect our teachers, those others, because we're not the only ones who care about this. There are so many people who care about the diversity and the cultural experiences and multicultural experiences that our students have while they're in school, and whether or not they're prepared for a diverse world. Many companies also care about it too, because they realize that, hey, if I want to have a company that is an attractive place for people to work, I might need to care about the type of people that I'm hiring. And if I'm hiring people who only care about one group of people and they don't know how to expand their care and their passion to others, then they might not need to be in my company. So a lot of organizations can help make an impact in this space. And that would be the change that is required from the outside to really help elevate and lift up this message about cultural conversations that must happen. Conversations about race, about ethnicity, about biases, about prejudices. These conversations have to happen. But then also from the inside, I think that that our teachers of color and really any teacher who might consider themselves to be a minority in some way, because this could also expand to gender conversations as well. But I think that this is where it really requires that that we are able to share in a safe space to someone who is a part of our districts, or someone who's a part of our organizations who can allow us to have safe conversations in a safe space. One thing that I cringe at, and I'm just going to put this out there, is a person who says they don't see color. If you do not see me as a Black woman, then you do not see me. So we have to have those conversations, and we have to say those awkward things. That used to be hard for me to say, but I've said it now for so long, it's not hard anymore. But I've also been able to be in a space with leaders, district leaders, with mentors, even with state leaders here in Tennessee, who have created safe spaces for me to say that more often. And we have to really do that for our teachers of color and for our students of color. It's not going to get any easier unless we're given that space.
Yeah, I agree. Safe spaces are absolutely a must for a whole number of reasons, but absolutely. You are without a doubt full of passion, and it just comes through the screen. Every answer you've given, I felt the passion. But has there ever been a time, like, well, besides when you made the switch to education, you lost a passion maybe for the lab work, but like, have you ever lost the passion for education? Has there ever been a time where you're like, Oh man, I didn't know I signed up for this. What's that been like?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I actually wrestled a little bit about whether or not I wanted to share a story. But I get, it's no secret that I am in an urban environment. And I say urban, but even in the grand context of other districts and schools, we're still pretty small, you know, to be considered urban, but we are. And so we deal with some very unique situations that not all schools deal with. The amount of gun violence that has impacted my school community is just insane. And it's only increased since the pandemic, and not just gun violence in the community, but specifically with the students that I serve. I have lost several students in the past few years, and that always, every time, it leaves me wondering, what are we doing? Why are we even, like, why are we doing this? Why are we, I mean, I just got out of a 2-hour-long meeting about PLC structure, and then I come home to news that I've lost a student. And then I have to get up and go back to school, because I'm gonna go the next day. I'm gonna be there because I have more students that are there waiting for me and wanting to talk to me and wondering why. I actually lost a student over this past weekend.
Oh, no.
It's crazy. It is crazy. And those are the moments where, yes, just a few days ago, those are the moments where my passion just kind of, the meter just, you know, it goes down a bit. But then I think about my students that I have here with me. They deserve the best version of me. And I know that I am imperfect, but I know I love them and they know I love them. I don't know everything about everything, but I know how to teach science, and I know how to support teachers as they continue to push through. So in those moments where I can feel my passion going down, I have to just remember that I have so many people that need the best version of Melody, the best version of Miss Hawkins. And the best version of me is connected to my passion as an educator. So I have to keep massaging that and pouring into that and loving on that part of me. I feel like if I ever completely lost that passion as an educator, I would not be the same person. It's part of who I am. I can't help it anymore. It's me. So I'm always loving on that part of me. If that means I have to turn to a book, I have several books that I love reading. I'm a big fan of Chris Emden. I have been going down the journey of some social emotional learning leaders. So I just continue to look for resources, to massage that gift, to kind of just pump that, keep that pulse going, because I know that I have things to give. I have stuff in me. I have things that I need to pour out to others. And I say that with all the humility. As much as I have things to give, I have twice as much or 5 times as much to receive. But in those moments, that's where I try to go. And there's not been a moment yet where I just completely walk away. I might have to take a break. I might have to take a reset, take a little breather, listen to a good podcast, and then I get back in the game, because there's always a tomorrow. There's always a tomorrow for someone somewhere, and I want to be a part of how they feel about that tomorrow.
That was a really powerful answer. You know, from everything that you've said since we started, and then right there, my kids know I love them. Like that is such an important part in education. I know that Tom and I have said it before, but like the standards are important. What we teach is important.
Absolutely.
But man, those kids have to know that we love them.
Yes.
They have to. Melody, thank you so much for sharing all of your passion, all of your joy, your energy with us. We always like to wrap up with getting one more piece of knowledge, and that is, what does the world need now?
Oh, Wow. I'm gonna go to what I always encourage my teachers to do. I encourage my students to do. I encourage my two little girls, Madison and Maya. They are 10 and 7. And even right now, I'm telling them to do this. So what the world needs now is more people to consistently pursue their passion. Find the thing you're passionate about and always pursue it. And it will always lead you to great things. That's what I believe.
Well, it's clear you found your passion. It's clear that you're coming to your passion out of a place of absolute strength. And I can't thank you enough for sharing like your strength with me and your hope and your passion with myself and Josh and everybody else. Melody, my gosh, this has been an absolute honor and joy to learn from you. Thank you for sharing yourself with us.
A total privilege. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I admire the work you all are doing. Keep doing it. I am a supporter. I can't wait to spread your podcast to the world because we need these conversations. Thank you for being brave and doing this for us all.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's our show. We're so thankful and appreciative that you took your time to listen.
Hopefully ready for another week of changing lives, and hopefully what the world needs now is helping you to sustain your inspiration as we journey through this school year together. If it is, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It helps us to get inspirational educators' stories out.
We hope that as you head out, you remember that the biggest factor that plays into student success is you. Your love, your passion, your empathy, your dedication is exactly what the world needs now. Thank you for all you do. Have a good one.